Welcome to Think Global Education Services. Today we are going to look at modifiers. In case we don't know what modifiers are, and we should definitely know what modifiers are. They are rarely tested in SAT writing section, the grammar part. These are basically something like adjectives and adverbs. Now I'm sure we have studied adjectives and adverbs in the school. Let me take you through what modifiers are. So going to the next page, modifiers, adjectives, adverbs, and phrases, these three things. Adjective and adverbs are modifiers, which we already know. So just to brief you a little, adjective is anything that gives any description or quality to noun. It goes to noun. And adverb goes to describes, gives quality, talks about, you know, all the extra information it gives to verbs or adjectives or another adverb. So this is adjective or another adverb. So anything that gives that description part. For example, if I say he is a beautiful girl, she's a girl versus she's a beautiful girl. The difference is that I have given a value to girl now. I've given some character, I've given some description, and that is adjective. Now, I cannot say it's an adverb because it's going back to a noun, which is girl. But the same word, beautiful, just changing it a little, could become an adverb. If I say she sings beautifully. Now remember, she sings beautiful is incorrect because she sings is a verb and it always goes back to adverbs. The easiest way to identify what's an adverb is to look for ly. Yeah, so that's one of the trick to find out that what's an adverb. Phrases. Now this is where I'm not sure if you have done that in your school or not, but this is where SAT comes in place, where it tests you sometimes on adjective adverbs and mostly on phrases. Now a phrase is something like if I say while going there, and that's it. No, I didn't say anything. While going there, comma, I found that I was lost. While going to the shop, I found that I didn't have wallet. Yeah. So when I talk about a particular phrase, that's not complete sentence, of course. Where where is it placed? Is it in the beginning, somewhere in the middle of the sentence, or towards the end of the sentence? That phrase is actually your modifying phrase. Okay. If you haven't yet understood, don't worry. I'm going to explain it further to you. Let me first talk about what all type of modifiers are there. We have these three types of modifiers: misplaced modifier, limiting modifier, and dangling modifier. If you don't know the name or if you've forgotten the name of this, that's okay. Until you know that it's a modifier, that's all we need. Okay, now let's see. Let's talk about phrases and all of it. Let's talk about dangling first and then come here. Like, look at this. While sleeping in bus. Is it a complete sentence? No, it's not. Let's look at the next part. Someone stole his wallet. Is it a complete sentence? Yes, someone stole his wallet. We have a subject and verb. It's a clause. It's an independent clause. Yes. So this part, while sleeping is the bus, is actually your phrase here. Yes. And where am I placing this? That is how your modifier is defined. Okay. Although the sentence is yet not correct. Now, this is a little difficult sentence. If I teach you this, I'm pretty sure you would know how to correct the above two. Okay, let's look at it. While sleeping in the bus phrase tells you that somebody is sleeping in the bus, right? While sleeping in bus, somebody is sleeping in the bus. Now, let's look at where is that somebody? Where is the noun? The next word after comma is someone. So this one is telling you while sleeping in the bus, someone. So someone is sleeping in the bus. So who stole the wallet then? So the sentence does not tell me who is sleeping and who's stealing. Yeah, that's the problem with this sentence. Now, how do you correct it? While sleeping in the bus, you have to say who is sleeping. That's where your modifier rule comes in picture. So you always want to keep the subject of the modifier next to the modifier. Let's say I was sleeping. While sleeping in the bus, I found that someone stole his wallet. No. Now, why? So I found that somebody else's wallet was stolen. Now, that's a possibility. But remember, in the pronoun rule, which we did earlier in one of the videos, I said that in order to use a particular pronoun like his, I need the he, I need who is there. Yeah, the person, the noun. So instead of putting a verb, a subject, which is I'll have to put this person as the subject. While sleeping in the bus, let's say John found that someone stole his wallet. A better sentence. Now I know who is sleeping in the bus. John is sleeping in the bus. While sleeping in the bus, John. So I know John is sleeping. John found that someone stole his wallet. Now I know that John found this. It's giving you a complete clear idea. And that's how you correct the error. So when you add the subject to the dangling modifier which does not know who to go back to, where is my subject? When you add that subject, you also have to add the verb. Otherwise, there won't be a verb. No, it's just the moment if you say John, someone, so that's not going to give you a verb. So you have to add a verb also, and that's how you correct this one. All right, with dangling. Now, let's go to misplaced modifier. Misplaced modifier is comparatively easy. In this case, my subject exists. My modifier also exists, but they're not next to each other. So basically what you have to remember is that when you solve a modifier question, you need to know step 1, let me find the modifier. So you find where is the modifier. Then step 2, you ask yourself, where is the subject? Subject of modifier, not the subject of anything else, subject of the modifier. So you ask yourself, where is the subject? And then you ask yourself, you tell yourself, place them next to each other. So you ask yourself, are they next to each other? And then you tell, no, I have to place them next to each other. So the subject and modifier should be next to each other. Please ignore the 3 and 4. It has to be 1, 2, 3. I don't know why my system is behaving this way. So this is basically 2 and this is basically 3. So find the modifier, find the subject and place them next to each other. That's basically the rule of modifier. Okay, so you should remember this. I don't want you to write it or something. I want you to remember it in your mind. Okay, remember this rule. Now let's go ahead. So he served drinks to guests. It's a complete sentence. He served drinks to guests. And then suddenly I'm saying in glass. So I wanted to tell that drinks were served in glass, yes. But instead of telling that the drinks were served in glass, I said he served drinks to guests in glass. That means the guests are in the glass. Can the guest be in the glass? No. The sentence sounds correct, but it is not because guest cannot be in the glass. So you need to, what you have to do is this part in glass, which is your modifier. So this is how you identify where is the modifier. You pick it up, put it over here. Okay. He served drinks in the glass to the guest. In the glass to the guest. And that makes a correct sentence. So wherever is your modifier, pick it up from there and put it next to the subject. That's what you should do. Now that's about misplaced and dangling. Mostly you will be tested on these two. There's something called as limiting modifier. Words like only, almost, these words talk about limiting. Now you limit that this is only thing it is going back to. Let's see what happens here. When I say they only saw each other during the meeting. Now I want you to answer this to yourself. What do I mean here? What is the meaning of this sentence? Yeah, pause the video, think what is the meaning, and then come back. I also want you to compare this sentence with the next sentence that I'm going to give you now. So now what I'm doing is saw each other. Okay, so I'm going to say they saw each other. Yeah, So they saw only each other during the meeting. They saw each other during the meeting. They only saw each other during the meeting. They saw only each other during the meeting. The term that changes over here is only. It changes its position, which makes a lot of difference in this meaning. So now I again want you to pause here and ask yourself, how are these two sentences different? Now, if you have understood and if you know, then great. If you don't, look at it carefully. When I say it's a limiting modifier, only limits saw. That means action. They only saw. So they saw each other and they did not greet, they did not talk, they did not even care that the other person exists. Okay. Versus they saw only each other. So they saw others also, probably. They met with each other, they greeted each other, everything. But I don't have information about it. I know that they saw only each other. So they did not care about other people. In the first one, they're not caring about each other because they just saw and then, no, I don't care about you, kind of. In the other one, they only care about each other. That's a lot of difference. Probably in the first one, they hate each other. In the second one, they love each other. Yeah. So only describes each other. Here, the word only describes so. That's limiting modifier. Both sentences are grammatically correct. So depending on what is your passage talking about, what part is underlined, and you'll have to match that whatever is underlined is going in the same meaning as the passage. Okay, that's limiting modifier for you. Now that you know what are modifiers, let's go to some questions and see if there is any error. While sleeping, the doorbell rang. Okay, now before I keep telling you the answers, pause the video, look for each sentence, correct it in some copy or somewhere, and then let's discuss this further. Okay, while sleeping, the doorbell rang. Now, who's sleeping? The doorbell? While sleeping, and the subject is doorbell, which is wrong. It needs to be while sleeping, he, she, I, anybody. I need the subject. While sleeping, I heard that the doorbell rang. That would become a complete sentence and a correct sentence. Next one, gliding through the valley at great speed. So somebody is gliding through the valley. Let's see who's gliding. Next part says, Mr. Muller's hat. Is the hat gliding through the valley? No. How will the hat glide through the valley? Mr. Mueller is supposed to glide, right? But apostrophe S means, in the previous video, punctuation video, I explained you that apostrophe means I'm not really talking about this subject, Mr. Mueller. I'm talking about hat. So we need to change it. Gliding through the valley at a great speed, Mr. Mueller, then you can say, saw that or felt that or anything. You need a verb. Felt that his hat was blown away by the strong wind. Found that his hat was blown away by the strong wind. Next one. After thoroughly examining the entire set of evidence and witnesses. So somebody is there, because until here, I don't know who's examining. After thoroughly examining the entire set of evidence and witnesses, so somebody is examining. Let's see who's the somebody. The investigation. Can the investigation examine something? No, right? Somebody has to do that. So it says the investigation was solved by the detective. So who's supposed to thoroughly examine the set of evidence? The detective is. So I need the detective here. I need to change the position. I will say, after thoroughly examining the entire set of evidence and witness, the detective solved the investigation, or the detective from the Scotland Yard solved the investigation. All right. In the next one, a house was made for Jim with the glass walls. So now a house was made for Jim and with the glass walls, that means Jim has glass walls. And the interior decoration he longed for. So he longed for means Jim longed for. That is fine. But when you say with the glass walls, this with goes back to Jim, which is wrong. So you need to correct it by saying a house with the glass walls and the interior decoration that Jim always longed for was made for him. There can be multiple ways of correcting it, but this is one of the way. Let's look at next. Delighted by the outcome of the match, the manager. So now, who is delighted by the outcome of the match? The manager. Can she be delighted or can he be delighted? Yes. So keep it. Treated all his customers with a free drink. Nothing wrong with the sentence. Delighted by this, the manager treated the customer with free drink. All right. Next. I had seen a monument in Italy with stone foundation. So now, similar to this one, gym with glass wall. Now, Italy has stone foundation and wall so strong that it would last 1,000 years. Will Italy last for 1,000 years and has strong foundation and walls and blah blah? No, right? It's supposed to be the monument. I had seen a monument with all of these in Italy, right? So I just need to take this Italy out and put it towards the end. Next, featuring the latest applications and games, my dad. So my dad features all the application and games according to this one, not the iPhone. So you need to replace these two. Featuring the latest application and games, the new iPhone was given to me by my dad. Or the other way, my dad got me the new iPhone, comma, featuring the latest application and games. So you just put this featuring sentence after iPhone. My mother made some donuts for Susan, which, that means Susan, had a sprinkle of coconut. Susan had sprinkle of coconut. But no, I was not supposed to say Susan had coconut. I was supposed to say that the donuts had coconut. So this for Susan needs to go out. Yes. Now, I'm pretty sure that with all these sentences, modifier concept is clear to you. All you have to do is identify the noun or the subject that the modifier is supposed to modify, put it next to the modifier. So identify where is the modifier, identify where is the subject, and put them next to each other, and your work is done. Okay, let's do one question now. Although covered in around 11 inch of snow, the aviation officials. So the officials are covered in 11 inch of snow. Okay, could be. Let's see further. Said, these people who are covered said that the conditions, okay, so their condition on the runway at the time of emergency landing was acceptable. Okay, so the runway and the official, look at the sentence. A says no change, always. The runway condition, the official, and the runway. Now, if the officials are saying something, that means what's supposed to be covered under 11 inch of snow? The runway is supposed to be covered. Yes. So A and C cannot be the answer. It has to be B or D. Let's look at B and D closely. The runway conditions. Are the conditions covered in snow? No, right? It's the runway. So the correct answer is, although covered in around 11 inches of snow, the runway was in acceptable condition during the emergency landing according to official. So what are the officials saying? That the runway is in acceptable condition. And it's not like they are saying we are covered in 11 inch of snow, but we cannot prove that the runway is fine. Yeah, so not that. Next, we'll go through parallel structure in the next video. Till then, thank you for watching the video for modifier by Think Global.